The best trade of the day came in an index that you probably weren't even watching. I know, like many of us out there, it is hard to stay away from the NASDAQ, ES, gold when it's been hot, gravitates us towards these extremely volatile indices. When the truth is, we do not need to be constantly trading those. There are a variety of assets that can present trades each day. And today, I believe that the best asset to trade was actually the YM, an indice that is often an afterthought for most traders, right? But in my eyes, this presented the most clean and straightforward trading opportunity of the day. And it was really clear why this looked quite different than the NASDAQ and the ES, right? So first, if you were to put them side by side, right? Where's the NASDAQ? If you were to put them side by side and compare the overnight sessions on a 15-minute chart, what you'll initially notice is dramatically different charts, right? The YM pushes up yesterday and gets a strong move at the end of day, ultimately ending and consolidating all night, going sideways in essentially a bull flag pattern. It does not move very far back on the move that it had from yesterday. It just goes sideways and holds that whole move. Well, overnight, the same 15-minute chart on the NASDAQ, you can see actually creates a smaller time frame downtrend and does give back over half of the move that it had made towards the end of the day. Now, I'm not worried about the exact 50% or anything like that, but it is very clear to me that this chart on the YM, sorry if my camera was blocking it for a second, this chart on the YM had a strong move yesterday and then consolidated at the upper end of the range of that move. While the NASDAQ ended up consolidating or going sideways, right, in a way that didn't really offer a bull flag pattern. It faded a good chunk of the move it made yesterday. So the very first thing that told me today was to keep an eye on the YM because there was potential to exhibit some extreme relative strength, right? And ultimately a very clean trade opportunity, right? Now, the next thing I did was what I always do is drill down and figure out, okay, where are the levels for the day that matter? This is such a crazy YM chart. But the level on the YM that mattered was 47520. Well, on the NQ, it was 25483. Now, do we have to test the levels? No, not necessarily. So the NQ, I could have seen myself getting caught in this initially choppy action on the day very easily. We spike under the lows, then we get a bounce, then that bounce gets rejected, fades all the way, then we try to hold, we go lower. We try to hold, we go lower. We try to hold, we go lower. We try to hold, we go lower, all until we eventually test the level, hold, and rally. Seems like a lot of work. Honestly, seems like way too much work when the straightforward trade setup came from the YM, right? Initially on the day, we pushed over the level. And yes, we did pull back a little bit afterwards, but we never took out that low. And all we effectively did was actually give me a spot to enter this trade. I actually ended up entering this trade as we were getting back above the opening print, as we had set that low of the day, as we were getting back above the 520 level. I felt like I had a really clean read. And if we were to hold this low, I felt good about us going to take out that high and beyond, right? So I took an entry, and let me go ahead, flip this to one screen, get my trade executions on here. This was on a Funded Next Rapid account. I'm super excited to be trading on Funded Next. These Rapid accounts, I can pass a challenge in 1 day and you can get paid out in 3 days, which is honestly an amazingly fast process. I'm also working on the legacy accounts for an uncapped payout, but I'll talk about that more later on. So for me here, I ended up taking this entry, starting off with one contract, and as we pushed over the opening print, and as we pulled back and gave another entry holding the level, right, I held. And for me, due to the consistency rule on the funded stage here, which I believe it's like 48%, right, I just didn't want to go too hard in the paint, making too much money on the very first trade that I had in the funded stage. So I ended up putting a sell limit right above the highs. I got filled out at that sell limit. Easy money. Great trade on this particular account. But that's not the only place that I took it. I also traded the DIA options on my own personal account with a smaller size than I would have liked. I completely blanked and forgot that today was Veterans Day. And because of that, banks are closed, which means that they are not processing trades from yesterday. So I took a trade on GLD yesterday, a great winning options trade. It was a solid trade. I'm going to eventually post like all of the streams, I think, from this week in one 15-hour YouTube video for those of you who refuse to come over to Kick. By the way, I am streaming daily at the moment on Kick. So if you're interested in seeing all of this live, just go ahead and follow Ricci. Right? We've had a really pleasant experience streaming on Kick so far. So go ahead and join up for trading streams. But in addition to trading this on my futures account here, I took it on a personal options account. Even then, though, I'm not going to lie, I still sold early. I had a very solid trade in here, but this consolidation started to freak me out a little bit. And the lesson that I have from this is that I was just focused on far too small of time frames, right? The longer time frames charts were never telling me to exit this position. In fact, this position looks freaking amazing. If you look at the weekly chart here, we have failed to go lower, filled the gap, and now are taking out that bar's high, are cleanly trending into assumingly that former high there on the weekly chart. The daily chart was just having finished up a very fresh PHL. Like I should be holding this YM trade on the options at least. I really should be. And the fact that I'm not, ultimately, it will haunt me a little bit, right? But despite haunting me, this was a very clean setup on the YM, a very clean trade. And the reason I wanted to make this video is the fact that many of you out there don't even look at the YM, or you don't even look at the RTY, or you don't even look at the all you do is trade NQ. You are literally addicted to NQ. That is not a hyperbole. That's not me using funny language. It is literally you being fully addicted to the NASDAQ and the way it moves. I love the NASDAQ. It's my favorite index to trade, hands down. I love the NASDAQ. But, right, I'm not in an exclusive relationship with the NASDAQ. I shouldn't be treating the NASDAQ like a personal girlfriend who I will never do anything to. The NASDAQ is great, but I should very respectfully hit it and quit it. I don't need to be sticking by it. And in my eyes, the trade that was offered today on the YM, or yesterday, the trade that was offered on the GC yesterday, was way clearer than what was going on the NASDAQ, right? And I don't want to feel toxically forced and tied to the NASDAQ. So I encourage you all to open up and consider some indices outside of the NQ, open up your realm a little bit, and you might just find a very straightforward trade in an index like the YM. It might have been called the Boomer Index before, but I promise you, it is a very clean and straightforward index to trade. So with that being said, I love you all very much. I have so much content coming to YouTube soon. Stay tuned, and I'll check in with you later.